And so, in the end, the task fell to the one person who could guarantee it went according to the grand plan. Presiding Bishop Ruth Bissar. A lifetime of predictions had led her to this fateful moment. Vigilant Hogarth was declared a traitor to the Protectorate, along with most other Westport townsfolk. They were judged according to the paradigm, then sentenced to be executed until dead, forever tied to the city they could not protect. The order returned Alexandra Monastery and Matriarch's Mercy to their original purpose, contemplating the clockwork of the universe in pursuit of solving the equation, while thoughtfully relocating refugees to another settlement. The abbot carried on as the head of the monastery, a task he excels at in peacetime. He was assigned a new seer who lacked Wiley's ambition. They got along much better. After defending Fort Endurance against a fierce Mantisaur attack, Executive Warchek was awarded a commendation for profit-securing stalwartness, as well as promotion to regional manager. He eventually passed peacefully in his sleep at the scientifically astounding age of 6. Within weeks of concluding the Arcadian mission, Val broke down beyond repair. Her compression coils corroded from exposure to the rifts. Her logic core decayed by the heat of extreme use. Niles cynically tried to move on, stripping Val for parts rather than dwelling on the sad task at hand. Following his rejection of the Earth Directorate, Niles became a vigilante, feared for his ruthlessness across Arcadia. His friend Zebulon Tran joined him. Already infamous for humiliating the Earth Directorate by publicizing the secret Skipcore agreement with the Protectorate, Tran was able to rally others to the cause of a free Arcadia. Inez succeeded in her campaign of fear, then set out on her next mission, returning to Tau Ceti to help her people push back against the greedy corporatists in her home system. The grafting program, meanwhile, remained forever shuttered. Tristan continued to doggedly uphold Protectorate values. With Virgil dead, no one could oppose Tristan for the rank of Supreme Arbiter. Tristan used his new role to punish even the smallest infractions harshly. He eventually became a widely feared figure within his own society. Marisol quietly fumed over her unfinished business with Anaïs Bujold at Point Obviation. She eventually passed away in her sleep, alone and full of regret. After Marisol left the commander's crew, rumors swirled that she began running operations on her own. She spent her days obsessing over unfinished business, eventually passing away in her sleep, alone. Asa finally achieved her dream of dying in a rift. All it took was a daring and blood-soaked heist of a modulator to create a rift that she then summarily leapt into. Thus Asa remained a fanatical member of the Glorious Dawn, spreading the truth of the rifts to her final agonized breath. With full control of the archive and the modulator schematics in hand, the Order called upon all Ascendants to collaborate in one purpose, that of rebuilding Arcadia. Ruth Bissar did not live long enough to achieve her dream of interfacing with the archive. Though another presiding bishop was quickly chosen from among the surviving laureates to replace her, they lacked her vision and leadership. With the old auntie dead, a new figurehead was needed to keep up appearances. Company execs fast-tracked auditions for a new auntie, but it was too little, too late for the corporation's influence to recover, leaving it ripe for a hostile takeover. A grateful Order bestowed the commander with an honorary academic position, equivalent to a laureate, despite the commander's lack of peer-reviewed published work. Adrift without firm leadership, Protectorate subjects struggled with post-war life. A small band of hardliners collaborated to preserve their society in the face of Arcadia's new leadership. Despite the recent tumultuous events in Arcadia, it was business as usual for Free Market Station. Sub Rosa continued to supply the colony in the wake of the commander's action. Unable to die in their sacred rift after it was closed, the Glorious Dawn heeded a new calling, seeking the modulators needed to create new rifts, so that they could die in those instead. With its reputation tarnished by its well-publicized agreement with the Protectorate, the Earth Directorate was on its back foot in negotiations to purchase skip drives from the new leadership of Arcadia. The dangerous experimental research of Marisol's contact from Point Obviation lived on, with a Seer predicted 11.9% probability of yielding a universe-ending catastrophe. Meanwhile, an entrepreneurial work group of chemistricians unveiled a new flavor of Purple Berry Crunch. The release of the skip drive schematics to the public domain resulted in new and exciting opportunities for independent manufacturers. However, unchecked use of the drives would ultimately lead to an even greater proliferation of rifts, once again imperiling the galaxy. Yet the Order was all too familiar with the causal link between skip drives and rifts. They provided rift modulator schematics to all skip drive manufacturers at no cost, so they could package both technologies and nip the proliferation of new rifts in the bud. Thanks to the Order's thoughtful planning, the rifts were all closed and all colonies in proximity to Arcadia were saved. But the fate of those farther out in the galaxy remains unclear. All of these events turned on the decisive actions of the Earth Directorate agent and their unique way of navigating Arcadia, its disparate factions, social complexities, ubiquitous product placement, and arsenal of absurdly satisfying weaponry. But through it all, and to this day, Earth has remained inexplicably dark. And so in the end, Azahalia Lightinger was able to finally end her life nobly, by saving the colony with her sacrifice. Not that she cared about that. She was beyond such pedestrian concerns of right and wrong. She was going to merge with perfection, and she couldn't have been happier. Aza happily joined the commander on his final voyage, an enthusiastic partner in sacrifice, and thus she finally found a peaceful, poetic death within the raging chaos at the center of her turbulent life. And so, in the end, Niles was forced to sacrifice himself. In his final moments, he could only wish that he'd never joined the Earth Directorate. Due to a clerical error, his name goes down in history, misspelled. Zebulon Tran eventually learned of Niles being pressured to sacrifice himself. The revelation made Zebulon even more angry and incautious, a recklessness that proved fatal during the final days of the war. Augustine de Vries was killed on the reconstituted Horizon Point Station. A fitting end, considering her actions. De Vries' treachery was never known to the Earth Directorate. She is forever remembered as the Star Agent who tragically went missing during her mission. Ruth Bassar proceeded to interface with the Archive, an agonizing process that shortened her life, yet accelerated the Order's work in solving the universal equation. Decades into the future, she would be recognized as the most efficient presiding bishop in Order history. A grateful Order bestowed the commander with a posthumous academic position equivalent to a laureate, noting they were on permanent academic hiatus due to extreme heroism. Adrift without